Welcome to the Growth Lab, a trusted space for parents navigating their child's developmental journey. I'm Luba, a speech-language pathologist, myofunction therapist, child and family advocate, and a mom of three. For the last 15 years, I've worked with more than 150,000 children and their families, helping parents understand what they're seeing, what it means, and how to move forward with confidence. This podcast is for parents who want clear, credible guidance when information feels overwhelming or decisions feel heavy. Here, we break down speech, feeding, breathing, learning differences, attention, IEPs, and more in practical, easy to understand ways alongside trusted experts. My goal is simple, and it's to help you feel informed, supported, and confident as you advocate for your child. You're in the right place, so let's begin. Welcome back to the Growth Lab podcast. I'm your host, Luba Kaplan, and today's guest is someone I genuinely love. And I don't say that lightly. I do not say that.
Thank you. I love you too.
She's a powerhouse in our profession, a fellow speechy, a visionary leader, a mama, and a CEO who has completely changed the way speech-language pathologists see themselves as business owners. She's the owner and CEO of the Speak Center, the creator of the SLP Business Suite, and the founder of the Made for More movement, which is now heading into its third conference this spring. Very exciting. But what makes today special is this. Ebony is someone who has motivated me. I actually found Ebony during COVID, back when we were all sitting at home questioning absolutely everything. And I was deep in my, how do I get a school contract era? I was watching lives, reading posts, taking notes, and just thinking all the time, okay, this is what real ownership can look like when you're refining yourself or wanting a new contract. But here's the best part. I still never formally got a school contract. And Ebony knows we've been together for the last, this whole last year, and it's gotten a little bit busier. Everything's just picking up. So I guess that contracts are still waiting. And that's what today's conversation was all about. How we started, how we've pivoted, what we've learned, what we wish we'd known sooner, and where we're headed next. We're moms, we're women, and as of course, CEOs. So if you're a speech language pathologist who knows you're meant for more, but you're figuring it out in real time, this episode is for you. Everybody, please welcome Ebony Green to the show. Woo!
Thank you so much for that warm welcome. I just can't even express how excited I am to be here because, as you mentioned, we're both busy women. So it took us a while to even get this on the calendar, and we still made it happen. So I think this conversation is meant to be, and we're going to hopefully inspire some other business owners today with sharing our truths and just opening up about what it takes to be a business owner, a mom.
Yes.
All the things that we do. So thank you for having me. And I'm so deeply honored to be a part of the Growth Lab podcast.
Oh, if I was with you, I would hug you. No, you see how deep she is? I just love it. Everything that you ever put your hands on is thorough. It's done right. And I appreciate that about you. So I'm so happy to have you here. And let's go back a little bit. So before the brands, before the titles, what did early Ebony look like?
That is a great question. So early Ebony looked a lot like what I look like today. Okay. But early Ebony was very focused on doing what was expected of her and doing things that would get me approval. Over the years, I have learned that I just have to show up for what Ebony truly wants and what my vision and purpose is and not anyone else's. And so I say that with, vulnerability that I was the, type A, straight A student my entire schooling career. I created, I started everything from my business to the ground up to starting my own organization in college that kind of, became, that I became known for, to now pursuing my doctorate. Everything was like a check mark, that's something that I had to check off. I just turned 41 last week, and I learned that while all of those things brought me joy and gave me a sense of fulfillment, the purpose behind all of them has shifted from pleasing others and doing what I think is expected of me to doing what I truly want to do and what brings me joy. So a lot of us in business, especially SLPs, probably share the same sentiment when it comes to the reason why we do things. So in this new era, in my 41st year of life, I'm showing up a little bit differently. I'm showing up as someone who's already proven that I can do it. I don't need to prove anymore that I have what it takes, that I can get things done. Now it's about showing others what's possible, but not with any other purpose other than just doing what's on my heart and not, to perform or to receive approval from anyone.
By the way, happy belated. I know I spoke to you, but you looked beautiful. I hope you had a great night. And yes, cheers to that, your year ahead, because from this moment, all the growth, all the things, and just like you said, you look the same. You haven't lost all those things, but at this point, you're fundamentally just in a growing pattern, and it's something new, and it's how do you level up now from where you were yesterday? So for us, it's very unique, this period of continuing on where we are, but also looking to better it, which is a big challenge sometimes, I feel like. Like back then, I was seeing clients all the time, and now I see them if I really have to. Like, we've had these snow days and illnesses, like, girl, I want to move to Arizona for these reasons.
I know. I
haven't been in like a consistent caseload in some time, but like back then, that's what I did. I was part of the bread and butter of the business in that way, contributing to the monthly reimbursements. And then growing away from that to leading the people who are going to do that, making sure they're properly trained, getting their hours in, understanding the dynamic of the business, our core values. That's my next level. Just like, we talk about this a lot between the two of us. But now you've extended yourself a bit further, and you're helping people who have that potential to understand, hey, I don't have to be in the grind day to day. I can also be a leader in the space. I can also build my own business. And that's a big jump as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And to further expound on your question, I talk about the personal transformation I've gone through. And I also want to share kind of the professional transformation. And for me, going back to that statement I made earlier about wanting to prove, to others and to do what's expected of me. As an early founder and as an early business owner, I thought I had to prove to my employees, right, that I was worthy of leading them and that I had what it took to be the owner and the clinician and doing all the things. So I refused to outsource and to get help because I thought I had to do all of it, right? I felt guilty if I wasn't always working, if I wasn't always in the office, if I wasn't always showing up, if I didn't have a caseload.
Boy, do I know your feelings.
Yes. And it's because, we are in a unique position in that we are clinicians who also run businesses. So we know what it's like literally to be in the shoes of the clinicians that work for our practices. And we probably had experiences of working places where the owners had no idea what it was like to be a clinician. So because we have, we are empathetic towards the labor of love of being a clinician, that all of our clinicians have, but at the same time, knowing that we have to be leaders and we have to make time and make space for being a business owner, it's a challenge, right? So I had to give myself permission to step away from doing all of the day-to-day. I had to give myself permission to let go of my caseload, to still show up as a confident clinician and to be able to still supervise and mentor other clinicians, but also show up as a strong leader and CEO. So when I said that, I'm now in a phase where I don't have to prove that I'm worthy. That's exactly what I meant. I had to become comfortable with letting go of those tasks that I thought were expected of me and required of me in order to be a successful private practice owner.
Absolutely. Do you feel like there was a point, like how many years in did you become a private practice owner? And was there a point where you were like, I know I want to do more, or did it just kind of work out like that, like sneak up on you?
Yeah, so I started my business back in 2019, right before COVID. Initially, I started my private practice because I worked at a school and had just a very idealistic view of what working in a school would be like as a brand new SLP. And unfortunately, the expectations that I had were not met. They were actually met with like the exact opposite. I was met with the exact opposite of what my expectations were. I was overworked, underpaid, dreaded going to work every day. And so it was
that's the feeling of I can't do this forever type of feeling.
Exactly.
Like I want to do this. How do I do this better? I feel like we have this epiphany.
Yes, that was my pivotal moment, and I decided to start my private practice. I had the opportunity of working at different private practices while I was working in the school. So I had an idea of what private practice looked like. I had a wonderful mentor who really took me under her wing and showed me how to effectively write reports in the schools, how to do IEPs, all of those things. And she also showed me, how to be a good leader in private practice. So I used what I learned from her. I had some that were the complete opposite that showed me what not to do when running a private practice. So I used what I learned from them. And that is what ultimately led me to starting my own business. And like I said, for the first couple of years, I felt like there was this expectation that I do everything, that I have a caseload, that I am the CEO, that I am the person that comes the earliest and stays the latest. And that was just imposter syndrome, right? Imposter syndrome is something that we all deal with as business owners. And with me starting my business very early in my career, I felt that even stronger, that imposter syndrome was deep because I felt like I did not have the experience that I quote unquote should have in order to start a business and become a CEO. The very first client that I got a referral for, we went to the initial visit in the home. I was only home based at the time. I did not have a clinic, and it was me and an SLPA. And so we went just to get to know the family, ask questions, fill out the initial paperwork. And this lady says to me, she says, "So how old is your business?" I said, "Oh, I just opened it a few months ago." And she says, "I'm sorry, but I really don't feel comfortable working with you."
Wow.
She goes, "What's going to happen to my son if 6 months from now you decide this is too hard and you don't want to do this anymore?" She goes, "I'm not saying I don't believe in you, but I'm more concerned that I'm going to have to find a new therapist because you've only been doing this for a few months." And I completely understood where she was coming from. Change is hard, especially for kids with autism, which is what her son had. And it was a moment where I had to decide, am I going to let this doubt, completely derail me and cloud my vision, right, and what I want to accomplish in this business? Or am I going to use this as fuel to move me forward and help me accelerate the vision and the growth that I see in my future? And I decided I was going to prove that I was not going to be around for 6 months and decide later that I was too burnt out to continue this, or that, I didn't want to do this anymore. So that was the moment where I was all in. right? Every entrepreneur has a pivotal moment when they realize, I am all in. I'm not quitting. Like this is the plan. There is no plan B, right? That was the moment for me. And that's when I really started to accelerate my growth. I was just fully invested in whatever it took to grow my company and become successful. And so throughout this episode, I'll share more about the intentional acceleration that took place in my business. It was all intentional. I didn't just, decide one day that I wanted to have a 7-figure business and then it happened. Everything was intentional to get to that point. And I think you just have to make that decision. Do you really want to do this? Yes or no? And if so, are you willing to do whatever it takes?
Those words couldn't be truer. And it's so unique because even just last week, I was speaking to a group of young leaders, and one of the questions at the end was like, well, how did you know that you knew what you were doing is impactful, but how did you know how to get there, and how did you know that it would get here? And I said, I didn't know these things I didn't know. It was faith, and I did my best, and I had anticipated, I'm going to start a business, but where it was going, I'm not psychic. You never know. Being willing to take those steps with the idea that it will become what you want, that's what fuels the way. And I'm trying to explain that to them, don't give up. I had many changes, many problems, many things happened. But I think that stamina of being able to be like, my head is in the right place. I'm still guiding myself to get to the right place. But you did it in such a wonderfully strategic way going forth. I think that I was even in a lesser position. Like, we all know your awesome hubby. If you've been to Maine before, you know her hubby. But I think with his collaborative experience in finance and being able to kind of set the tone for where business is going numerically. Like, I learned my data 5 years in because I took some courses to help me better understand business. Right. Just like you, we're speech pathologists. But it's the idea and that faith and that drive, I think, that really helps people who have it inside. And, you don't have to be a 7-figure business. Ebony and I did not start as 7-figure businesses. It evolved with that TLC we continued to put in. And still to this day, if you think, we were on Inc. 5000 last year together, and we're both going for it again. But if you think that means we're like going on vacation for 6 months, you are wrong. We are very much still putting in. We are very much both still showing up. And I think that that's also a big driver. And from you, we've spoken a lot about putting in and growing your people and establishing your team, the proper team. And once you do have that, yes, you are able to step away, but not for good. I think that that's a misconception people have early on. Their expectation is a little bit faster than what's happening in real time. So don't forget to be grounded, everybody. You know what I mean? Don't forget.
No, definitely. And I think what you're talking about, is what a lot of business owners experience in terms of getting that stability as the operator.
Yes.
It's one of the phases of intentional acceleration that I like to talk about, and this is the first phase. Okay, so the first phase of intentional acceleration is really stabilizing yourself as the operator. You need to have clarity and you need to have control, but at the same time, you need to get out of survival mode. And so you said you were wearing all the hats, you were doing all the things. You didn't know about business, so you had to take some classes on how to get clear on your numbers, right? That's about the clarity and also the control that you need in that first phase of intentional acceleration. Luba mentioned that we were both on the Inc. 5000. The Inc. 5000 award is one of the most prestigious awards you can win in business as a small business owner. It's America's fastest growing private held companies, right? So the fact that we were both on this Inc. 5000 list, I just want to give her flowers because it is amazing to see other female private practice owners on the list. First of all, there's not a lot of women on the list, period. Second of all, in our specific niche, it's even smaller. I think out of all the companies there. There was I think there were 3 of us who were pediatric private practice owners. So anyway, not to go in a completely different direction here, but I just want to kind of share that, our journeys look very similar because there are phases you have to go through in business. You got to start with getting stable, getting that stability as the business owner, and somehow finding a way to stop doing everything. You have to stop doing everything, because if you do, you are not going to be able to get to the next phase of growth, which is when you can finally start to scale.
Absolutely. And I want to just go back to, so when I first got to know about you, you were known for school contracts. And for me, I went deep into the clinic space. I started with early intervention. I went into the clinic space. So again, we had different things. We were coming up differently. Let's compare notes here for a minute. So why did school contracts then make sense for your life? Why was that your starting place? And what type of personality do you feel would thrive in that model?
Yeah. So for me, in those early stages of growth, it was about learning how to work with intention and to not work harder. So going from working harder to working with intention was entirely the reason why I decided to go into school contracts. And what I mean by that is that school contracts offer a way for you to scale the number of billable hours in your private practice without having to increase overhead. It also allows you to increase those billable hours without having to increase the number of therapists that you need to hire if you already have therapists on your team that are willing to do the work. So for me, I was able to increase hours, increase revenue, but not increase overhead or my headcount. So therefore, it was a great way for me to, again, go from working harder to working with intention. Once we secured those school contracts, I was able to offer more time for my therapist to be able to bill. Our profit margin increased because school contracts are, they can be very profitable. You get to negotiate your rate. So we negotiated some pretty competitive rates. Therefore, we were able to profit pretty well from the services that we were providing. And last but not least, with school contracts, you do not have to deal with some of the insurance and billing things that are out of your control a lot of times with those clinical services. So once you submit an invoice to the school district, you can expect payment usually in 14 days, sometimes up to 30 days. But generally speaking, you're not going to be going back and forth to get paid. So that's why I decided to go that route. I also had extensive experience working in the schools. So I knew that I could use that experience and be of great assistance to these districts that need competent therapists to help them with their caseloads. So those were the reasons why. And it's funny that you bring that up and, comparing that part of, or that time in my private practice to now, because we actually rely less on school contracts for our revenue. We have made a switch to more of the clinical side as times have changed. Most of my school contracts were virtual, and I would say probably in 2024, we saw less and less opportunities for those virtual school contracts. Now in 2026, it is very hard to come by virtual school contract opportunities. So with that being said, we have kind of flip-flopped and we've focused more on the clinical side. And I think that is what is popular right now. That is what is trending, is the clinical services, the behavior support. We've added additional services besides speech to support our population with autism. So it's been wonderful to have the opportunity to make that switch, right? You want to always have more than one income stream. Don't put your eggs in one basket, because with time, things change. What was once trending and popular, which was school contracts, virtual services, is no longer what's trending and popular. So we are able to adapt and pivot very quickly because we have more than one stream of income in our business.
You're experts in this space and you know how to pivot yourself. And it's as you're speaking and saying that don't put all your eggs in one basket. I remember a while back, and to this day when this happens to me. But there was something that you said one day, and it involved eggs in one basket. And then you had a little thing about, did your cash register ring today?
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was always like, I love what she's saying. Like, you put everything into such clear perspective, because I was like going through it live at that moment. So if there are people out there who haven't experienced owning a practice or the positioning of it or understanding what that even means, did your cash register ring? That may not mean you personally going. It may mean you hiring somebody. You should talk to Ebony, because she does have the perfect course for those types of things. But Ebony, anytime I get my statement coming, Venmo, PayPal, Zelle, whatever, how we accept credit card, rung up, I'm like, Ebony, my cash register's ringing.
Cha-ching, cha-ching, yes.
So I think of you always, because it's embedded. Like, that moment was pivotal for me, because I wanted to ensure that it wasn't only when I also was in the clinics or doing something, and you were speaking my language. And to this day, I'm telling you, I always think of you when this.
Thank you. Yeah. So what Luba's referring to is on social media, where I kind of grew my platform for business education, sharing the day-to-day of running a private practice. One of the things that I would always ask in my stories is, did your cash register ring today? And I'm going to be honest, when I first started presenting this question in my stories, I thought, what are people going to think? They're going to think I'm bragging, or I'm greedy, because I'm always talking about money. And it's like, those who get it. So thank you, Luba, for affirming that was helpful, and you understood where I was coming from.
Absolutely.
Where I was coming from with that question, did your cash register ring today, is the cash flow in your business healthy? Do you have more than one stream of income, right? Have you gotten a handle on the service delivery to the point where you're constantly getting paid? Because that is how your business thrives. It doesn't thrive when your cash register is not ringing. It doesn't have to ring every day, but it should ring almost every day, okay? Whether that's you getting a check, whether that's somebody signing up for a new therapy service, whether that's somebody buying a product that you have on the market. Right. That is what that was the question behind. The real question was, how's the cash flow in your business? Is your cash flow healthy? And that's something that every entrepreneur should be thinking about, especially in those early stages.
Couldn't agree with you more, honestly. And in my experience, the clinic started to grow so quickly, and maybe I wasn't even prepared. You hear these overnight stories of people who started a telebusiness, and suddenly their phones are going off the hook, ringing. People want to buy something, and their system breaks. And you're not always prepared off the bat, because you start small with low expectation. But the idea is that growth period. So it all came to me really quickly. The chaos, the systems, I had to move quickly, because I saw that it was working. Just like you saw that, hey, if you prioritize XYZ, things will start to flow better. And that's where that cash register reading comes into place. But no one tells you, and guys, if you're out there listening again and you're interested, we're telling you right now something no one tells you. And that's, you're an owner, you will be solving problems all day long. Like, there's always something going on to solve, expand on, a new procedure, a new policy. We're going to implement that. This isn't working as well. We're going to try this. This type of business, because we're working with people, and a lot of clients who, especially for me at Kidology, are birth to 21 age. The consumer is not just the client, the patient, it's also the parents. So there's a lot of change, and we have a lot of ebb and flow. And you have to be able to go with the flow, and you have to be able to modify what's happening day to day based on the data you're collecting from the previous day to day. Yeah? Like, is that not valid?
No, that's so true. And I think what you're describing is actually the second phase of intentional acceleration, which is building the architecture. You want to make sure that you have those systems in place, the infrastructure is in place, because as you start to grow and as your phones start to ring off the hook, you're going to be faced with more challenges. More things are going to get broken. More things are going to require you to monitor them regularly, right? So this is where your acceleration needs to be strategic and not emotional. And this is when you need to start designing your business to grow without you. Every time a new system is created, it needs to be documented, right? Don't let those systems live in your head so that they depend on you 100% of the time. And so turn your knowledge into systems, train people on how to deliver those systems. And you want to protect your business and yourself from burnout and breakdown in this time period, because it is very easy to get burnt out in that acceleration and scaling phase. So for me, that happened probably around 2022. I just felt like if I add one more thing to my plate, this whole business is going to go down. Okay. Someone told me that my business at that time was like an IKEA cabinet. She said, Ebony, your business is like an IKEA cabinet. Do you know what an IKEA cabinet is like? And I said, yeah, IKEA furniture is pretty cheap. So I'm assuming it's something that works, but it doesn't have a strong foundation, right? And she said, exactly. Your business is, it has, it works right now, but the more things you keep adding into that cabinet, the more likely it is going to break. And she was absolutely right. So I had to focus or shift my focus from operator to architect. And what that means is I'm developing systems so that other people can step in and they can take away some of these things from my plate. And that helped tremendously. That was when I hired my first clinical director.
And this is also really knowing that we get this wake-up call we've both experienced. You're explaining yours right now, where you're not always going to be the one to do everything, because you may not even be the one that's the best at doing those things. And really recognizing and finding the people who are suitable, that can grow in the areas that maybe are too much for you or are not those functions that are your best functions. And that's okay. That's exactly what's supposed to happen.
Yes. And honestly, I will say this. Most owners think that delegating is just giving people tasks. And while, yes, you are giving people tasks, you also need to give people decisions. It's not just about delegating what needs to be done. It's about delegating the decision making, because guess what? As an owner, you make hundreds of decisions per day. You don't even realize it. From the time you get up till the time you go home, you've made probably 100 decisions. So what you need to start doing is thinking about what decisions can be made by other people. What decisions can I trust other people on my team to do so that I'm not having to make all of those decisions? What I did was I started to delegate tasks. And my clinical director said to me one day, she said, I feel like there's still too much that goes through you. And I didn't quite understand what she was referring to until she left and I hired a new clinical director. And with the help of my mentor, I was able to give this new person more autonomy than the previous person had. And then I understood, okay, this is what she meant, because half of the decisions that my new clinical director makes, my old clinical director, didn't make. Those decisions were made by me. So it takes time. Okay, it takes time. And thankfully, I had an amazing mentor to help me learn how to delegate those decisions. But once I got to that point, I was able to systemize the decision-making process in my business, not just the tasks. And that was really when I started to see my time, getting back my time. And once again, being in that CEO role instead of the operator role.
It's an inevitable part of business transformation and growth. And I think that a lot of people, until you get to this moment, it's not something that really even crosses your mind, because you're just so enamored by everything you're doing. You're trying to do as much as you can. You're trying to, but then we also are family people. So we have to dedicate time to our family, and every living, breathing moment is you're doing something. So then it's just such a breath of fresh air for that moment when you realize it and you're like, okay, I trust this person and they're going to help me get from here to here. And I don't have to be the one that does every single thing. You're still eyes on, just like I am. But again, I think that the biggest piece that people don't get when they're getting started is, like, eventually, yes, you will get to a point where you have people that are helping you get to where you want to go. You're just guiding that.
Absolutely. And you're still in charge of the vision.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're the end all be all. That's what I like to say. We may eat last because we get paid last. You know, we're here for everyone else first. Owners eat last. But the journey is just the same. We're with everybody. Their journey doesn't change.
For
what
sure.
I see in both of our communities with the speech therapists that are in both of our communities is not that they lack intelligence, because SLPs are very smart. They lack permission.
Mm-hmm.
So why create the SLP Business Suite? Did you recognize that maybe people were interested but just lacked permission, didn't allow themselves? What confidence shift do you see in the women or men that you're working with over time, and why provide such an amazing tool for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the SLP Business Suite is my online education platform. I launched it in 2021 after seeing that a lot of business owners were struggling to keep their doors open. We were in post-COVID, and a lot of people had either closed or were just struggling to get back on their feet, so to speak, in their businesses. So one of the courses I started teaching during the time that I launched the SLP Business Suite was the School Contracting Masterclass, which you've mentioned and alluded to a few times as we were talking. But the School Contracting Masterclass has helped hundreds of SLPs not just get those contracts that were able to hold them over during COVID when we were all struggling to keep clients and to get our caseloads built up. The course has helped people become million and multi-million dollar school contract agency owners.
Awesome. Yeah.
One of my most successful students did $2.5 million in revenue from school contracts alone last year.
Amazing.
So when I saw what an incredible tool school contracts were for my business and how we were able to make a huge impact in the rural community that we serve, it really just became something that I thought, if this was something that another SLP could learn and, they could help impact a community that really needs therapists, I should teach them how to do it. So I started the SLP Business Suite with that one course, and then people started asking me for more coaching and more education around business because we don't have it in our graduate programs. So, I was pretty new in my business at that time. I was only about 2 years in, but everything that I learned, I would go back and I would teach to my community. I would go to conferences and I would say, I need to teach a class about this, or I need to help people learn how to do this, right? So I was really kind of just sharing whatever knowledge I was getting through my own professional development and my own training and my own mentorship, and helping others grow and scale the best way that I could teach them how to do it. So today I have a community where we have about 40 women. We have had men in the community as well, but we are a female-dominated profession, so most of the time it's women. And we just meet on a weekly basis. We talk about our goals. We hold each other accountable. Accountability is huge if you're an entrepreneur, because you don't have coworkers that you can talk to about the things that you're going through. A lot of these women, they haven't ever worked with a mentor before, so they need support from their community. They need support from peers, and I do group coaching as well, and I just actually expanded by offering mentors to the community, and you are one of those mentors, so I'm excited for them to hear from you. And I just love when we can use the lessons that we've learned and share them with other people so that they can also grow and avoid some of the costly mistakes that we had, and everybody has to go through their growing pains. But if, in my opinion, and I'm a very spiritual person, I am a believer, I'm a Christian. I always say I'm blessed to be a blessing. I am blessed to be a blessing.
So
God chose me.
beautiful.
Yes. God chose me to have the blessings that I have so that I can bless other people. So that's why I have this community. That's why I do the conference. The conference is extension of the SLP Business Suite, because somebody needs to hear from someone else who's going through what they're going through. Somebody needs to hear that they can do it, not to give up. And I received so many positive testimonials and great feedback from the members in the community that, honestly, I think it's needed in our profession. And
there's definitely not enough of it. And I felt that too when we were there. I was just like, and I go to a lot of different conferences, but here you were literally with all speech pathologists, all different types of walks, already written a book, working on an online program, starting a clinic, owner of a clinic, whatever. We're all doing the thing.
Yeah.
And most importantly, helping so many families. And then that collective, collaborative space, it's insane. It's awesome.
Yeah. And I used to think, I'm not the typical speech language pathologist. Something is wrong with me because I don't want to just treat. I want to be a leader. I want to have a platform where I teach people. I want to have a nonprofit. I have a nonprofit as well where we do volunteer work internationally. So I used to think something was wrong with me for wanting all these things and for having all these ideas. And then I realized there's a whole lot of people like me out there who are multi-passionate, who own several businesses, who have many passions, that they want to explore. So another reason that I love Made for More is because the speakers, the attendees, we all have that kind of spirit of multi-passionate owners, entrepreneurs, people who have multiple interests, and just people who want to use the skills and the talents that they have for the greater good of our communities where we live and of the profession.
Yes. And you, like me, are bilingual, so you speak Spanish as well, correct?
Correct, yes.
And this extension, and you see, we're different people. I'm a bilingual Russian-speaking speech pathologist, and Ebony is a Spanish-speaking bilingual speech pathologist. But that heart, that drive is the same for us both. Despite being very different, we are very similar because of what we're here for. And ultimately, our big goal when we first started wasn't big business, but it was helping people. And I think we stand by that. And go ahead.
I was just going to say, a lot of times people will ask, like, why are you interested in working with the population that you serve? Because I know that you also work with children that have been impacted severely by their disabilities. And for me, it's, I never had anyone in my family with autism or another disability. I never experienced it, in my immediate family or just close to home. But as a mother, you have compassion for other mothers who have kids, and especially with special needs. I remember when I was getting my hours to become an SLPA, I had the opportunity to work at a clinic. And my daughter at the time was probably almost 2. She was approaching 2 years old. And seeing her development compared to the development of some of these children that I was working with at the clinic was just like, wow, it's so difficult to see that discrepancy between a typically developing child and a child with disabilities. And you wonder, like, how do the parents navigate the day-to-day of their child's disabilities, right? And what can I do as a speech language pathologist to help make their lives easier? I'm sure it's frustrating when your child can't communicate with you. So that is where, my passion for serving this population came from. It's from when I became a mother and seeing how hard it is to raise children, but, then throwing in having a disability, it makes it even more challenging.
This is my next question to you is about mom life and CEO life. And we're both moms building very big things. And we've seen as our children grew and you can't help but have that comparison just because your heart bleeds for those people. You're kind of like, oh man, like that's tough. But God will never grant a difficulty like that to a family who can't help, like you can't get through. Just like people who have twins and then twins with disabilities have come. And the first thing I say, and I pull the family aside and I'm always like, God gave this to you because you are the person that can handle it. and you are the person that's going to be the bridge for the next person that couldn't handle it or didn't think they could, the strength. God doesn't just give this to people that can't. I don't know. Call me crazy. I'm very spiritual also, but I believe that. And I think that just like those people, we are messengers for this population. And as you're aware, I'm going into the personal branding now. And that's everything. That's everything I want to do. Be that support for every family that comes to us. Big or small issues. New moms who have no idea. They've just, that poem, Welcome to Holland, where the family thinks to go on a vacation in Italy. They have a whole itinerary, tickets, hotels, and then, they landed in the wrong place. Now they're in Holland. Where are we going? We don't speak the language. We don't know what to do. We have no hotel. We have nowhere to stay. But if you use that analogy, despite it being silly here on this side, those families go through very rough times. And being the resource, the Speak Center, Kidology, you're breeding the next gen of people who are going to service those populations. And I'm now expanding my reach and helping as the advocate, the family advocate who's going to involve myself in their child's development, make them a plan, help them to navigate, help find resources, whether they're in my state or other states. I want to be that voice and that bridge for the people because they need us. Ebony, they need us. That's why we're here.
Yeah, I love what you're doing online. I see all your videos. I see how you're showing up to serve these parents. I know you're going to be doing a free event next week.
Yes, I am.
Yes.
It's my first one, and hopefully I'll get to speak out more after, but you got to start somewhere. I'm doing it all over again. We're constantly reinventing ourselves to get a bigger reach, to help more people, whether it be the therapists or the families.
Well, good for you. This is a resource that I'm sure a lot of families will benefit from, just knowing how to navigate the special education process, knowing how to navigate being a child or being a parent of a child with a disability. And this actually is a great segue into what I want to share about intentional acceleration, which is phase 3 in your business. And that is the leadership, legacy, and longevity of your business. And so this is where the intentional acceleration matters the most, because what's going to happen when you decide you want to sell Kidology or you want to move on to something else, right? So the fact that you have entered this third phase of scaling and intentional acceleration allows you to have the time to do these things, to be an advocate, right? You've released the need to be needed in the day-to-day of your business. Yes, you can pick up every now and then when you want to, or when therapists aren't able to, see their clients, but you don't do that every single day. And you've expanded your impact beyond the original model of Kidology. I'm sure the first day you started this business, you did not think you were going to be where you are now as an advocate, as having a podcast, having a personal brand, right? Being on the Inc. 5000, like those are all a part of your legacy and longevity in this business. And these opportunities are going to just continue to allow you to expand, not just as the owner of Kidology, but as Luba, the voice for parents, right? And the personal brand that you're trying to develop. So it's important in this last phase of intentional acceleration to really go from being essential to the business to being replaceable, because the old version of Luba has been replaced by therapists, by support personnel, by admin team members. And this new version of Luba, who's the CEO, is not replaceable because you have the vision, but the old version has been replaced. You have fired yourself from the original CEO that you were, which was more of an operator, to now being the visionary CEO.
I love you for, like, you always package it up so well. Like, we have different skills, and I'm so fascinated. Like, if you're somebody out there, whether you're already in business or you're starting, just Ebony will help you to figure out where you are positioned and then teach you these next phases. And it's just honestly incredible, because I wish I had this resource then from the beginning, and then just having the privilege to have you in my circle, have you as a friend, and know that you would inspire, educate with it's so incredible for me just listening to you, because I'm like, You see, I'm just like at a loss for words myself, because you just hit the nail on the head. You're like, this is what's happening to you, and you're here, and I'm just like, yes, I am. Thank you. Thank you for being able to package that up, because it's not so simple. I think people are in the chaos of the day-to-day, and despite understanding that we're in these different phases, really breaking it down is challenging, because you're in it.
For sure.
And then to have somebody pull you out and say, here's where you are, and if you are intending to do this, here's what you're going to do. It's the best.
I mean, we've all heard you can't see the trees when you're in the forest. So that's what I love most about having access to mentors, to peers even, that can kind of give us that bird's eye view of where we are, where we're headed. And just as Luba mentioned, if you have the opportunity to work with someone, whether it be a mentor or a business coach, or even just to get in the room with people who can help you, find your purpose, see what's next for you in business. I think it's important for you to tap into those networks, to tap in with those people, because those are the people who are really going to give you that clarity if you're still struggling to figure out where you need to go. To wrap up everything, in this conversation, Luba's in the position that she's in. I'm in the position that I'm in, not because we moved fast, even though we did grow quickly, but it's because we did everything on purpose. Everything was done on purpose in our business. We did the right things at the right phases in our business. We started from the ground up, so just be mindful as you're growing, try to remember the 3 phases that I talked about, and I can just quickly, share what those were once again. First of all, you need to get stability as the operator, stabilize yourself, get clarity into your cash flow, get clarity into your systems. Then you're going to become the architect, right? Instead of just doing all the things, you need to start creating those systems, creating those blueprints to pass on to other people on your team. So when you hire them, you're not answering all those questions and you're not getting that decision fatigue. And then last but not least, expand your vision, right? Go from being the operator to being a leader. What does your legacy look like in this business? So those are the 3 phases that I want to share with you guys. I love talking about business. I love pouring into my community and just giving them the tools that I wish I had. Like Luba said, I wish I had someone that I could follow and get insight from when I was in the beginning stages. But we are both here to support our community of entrepreneurs, especially SLPs, because we are both kind of in the network with SLPs, and we see the lack of resources and education for entrepreneurs in our field. So once again, Luba, I'm excited for everything you have going on, and the legacy of Kidology and the parent coaching that you're doing, and the advocacy work. And I'm also excited for this new movement of Made for More that I created for SLPs who want to continue to grow and scale.
For an SLP that's out there feeling stuck, who heard this, where can they find you to work with you, or attend Made for More, or just for some advice from you?
So for the Made for More SLP Business Conference, you can follow us on Instagram. Our handle is at Made for More SLP. If you would like to follow me, I'm always available on LinkedIn. You can also follow my personal page at SLP Biz Queen, or you can follow my my business page at the SLP Business _Suite.
Ebony, I'm so proud of you. I'm so grateful to have you on here today. I love watching women like us rewrite what's possible in our profession, just as a therapist turned business owner. It's freaking awesome. But if this episode resonated with you and you want to share it with an SLP who needs to hear it, remember to tag us. We'd love to see who's out there keeping an eye on what we're up to. Remember, you're not behind, you're building. Thanks for tuning into the Growth Lab. And until next time, bye. Thanks Thanks so much for joining me here at the Growth Lab podcast. I really hope this episode was helpful. If it was, stick around for more episodes by subscribing to the podcast wherever you're listening. And if you know a fellow parent that could use this episode, share it with them. Follow me on Instagram at Luba Patlak. That's LubaPatlakh for daily advice and resources to keep you informed between episodes. See you next time.